That's very easy, my friend. I mean, there are all kinds of, for example, the Chinese had the most powerful navy in the world in the 15th century.
But they never invaded people.
They withdrew. Why did they do it?
Achha,
it's important to ask these questions. Why did Japan give up the sword? There's a wonderful book by Noel Perrin. It's called Why Japan Gave Up the Sword. Why did it give up? You see, this idea that if you have power, you will always use it. This is an axiom that comes from statecraft in the West. And it goes back to, in fact, the time of Thucydides. A kitab I recommend karunga, because that's the beginning of all of this here, this kind of thing. It's called The History of the Peloponnesian War. It's by Thucydides, written in the 5th century BC. So this is about the period when Athens and Sparta were competing for supremacy in the Peloponnesian world, in the Greek world, if I may put it this way. So there's this wonderful chapter there where the Athenians, they basically take control of a little island called Milos. ये जो बुश का जो view है ना, either you're with me or you're against me. This is there in the 5th century BC, because the Athenian view was, if you don't support us, that means you're supporting the Spartans and therefore you're an enemy. सीधी बात है. That's their view, as Thucydides presents it. So Milos actually is neutral in the conflict, but they don't accept the idea that neutrality is possible. कोई neutral नहीं हो सकता.
Okay, fine.
So they go to this island, they take over this island. There is this dialogue. It's called the Melian dialogue. Melian dialogue it's called. 3 page का wonderful dialogue, because वो plead करते हैं. The Athenians basically give the view कि might is right. सीधी बात है, ठीक है? Okay.
तो आपने जो बात की, मैं समझने की गरज से पूछ रहा हूँ कि जिस तरह जापान और चीन की मिसाल दी, तो आप that kind of suggest that there is some inherent factor with the civilizations that you mentioned which makes them act in this way.
Well, I think, look,
and which points back to your earlier argument
that there is a problem in
that conversion from faith to ideology.
Well,
जो कि चीनी और जापानियों को problem नहीं थी.
Yeah, but in my view, this is one of the few places and few areas of thought where I would use the category Asiatic. Asian civilizations have had a different worldview about how to deal with the question of power, and there I would include India and I would include China.
उसमें मुसलमानों को भी शामिल करेंगे आप एशियन में?
No, the reason being because Islam shares far too much in terms of monotheism with the Judeo-Christian tradition. This is a fundamental problem, and so this is my reading now. With monotheistic faiths.
As I see it, with monotheistic religion or relatively younger religion की juvenile behavior आई है, if I may put it that way.
In a manner of speaking, that's true. In a manner of speaking, that's true. That there is a conception of wisdom which does not come through the kind of monotheistic worldview that developed in the Judeo-Christian/Islamic view. But usme bhi modulations hain, because the Ottoman Empire, from my point of view, is a very interesting illustration of an empire that did not, in fact, actually practice outright discrimination. But that has to do with the fact that it's an empire. Empires are much more liberal. See, we use the word empire much more colloquially now, just like the American empire. Empires can accommodate tension, and they have learned how to do that for a very long period of time.
You were talking about China and Japan. Can we go back to that for a minute? I mean, as an example of people who didn't abuse their power or didn't go after.
But of course, later on that changes. Later on that changes. It changes when Japan opens itself up to the West in the 19th century. When the Meiji Restoration comes in, Japan is going to be transformed.
But in the past, when you said why did they put down the sword? Why?
Well, it's a renunciation of power.
Why?
Sorry. Why? Because there are civilizations that believe that you do not, in fact, actually achieve anything through conquest.
But this was deep in their culture.
It is.
Samurai.
And that is why the course of Japanese history after the Meiji Restoration in the mid 19th century is vastly different. But then it has come under the rubric of the West already.
ये बताएं कि जो आपका था चाइना और जापान की मिसाल, आपको और मिसालें मिलती? फॉर एग्जांपल लैटिन अमेरिका में बड़े पुराने स्पिरिचुअल ग्रुप्स या रिलीजन्स हैं, वहाँ पे हाउ डिड दे बिहेव?